Hey there, I'm Christy Wilhelmi from Gardenerd. There comes a time in every tomato plant's life where it starts to wane or is really overgrown or is starting to show some, it starts to kill back some of its own vines. And I get questions a lot. In fact, one came in this week about, how do I prune my tomato plants? Now, it of course depends on what time of year it is and whether or not you have a long growing season, but here where I live, we have an extremely long growing season. These tomatoes go in the ground in March, and here we are in August, and some of them have died completely. Some of them have just need a little bit of help to maybe produce more tomatoes before fall planting hits. So let me show you my tricks for pruning tomatoes for more production. I think one of the first things that people think about when it comes to pruning tomatoes is about pinching suckers. I'm going to talk about that, but not yet, because pinching suckers is something that usually happens earlier in the season. I'm talking about late season pruning for that last ditch effort to get more tomatoes out of these plants before they have to be pulled and new crops have to go in. So first thing you want to do, of course, is cut off anything that looks dead. Now I have a whole bunch of dead stuff in here, and I'm going to use pruning shears rather than my hands to rip things off, because you could damage the remaining plant if you do. So let's take a look at some close-up shots of how to prune these dead things off. The dead stuff's pretty easy. You just want to find the starting point and cut it off. Usually it's at the junction where the leaf nodes have grown. Some of them are just going to come right off. If you have parts of your tomato that are diseased, it's a really good idea to disinfect your pruning shears between each cut. I like to keep a spray bottle of alcohol or hydrogen peroxide on hand and just in between, and you're good. So let's pretend I did that. So you're going to just basically cut. Well, I'm going to come back to these guys, but we've got some down here that need pruning away. This particular tomato plant has already started growing a lot of new foliage, so I'm a little late doing this. I have another set of tomatoes over in a raised bed where I've already cut them all the way down, and you can see there's a lot of new growth already started. So you can really aggressively prune your tomatoes. You just have to do it early enough so that you still have enough time by the end of the season for them to maybe produce some new crop. So it's already starting to look a lot better, but we're not done yet. And now that the dead stuff is off, now it's time to actually prune the living branches. So let's talk about why and how to identify those branches to cut. Up here at the top of the trellis, there are a couple of long spindly guys, more dead stuff too. The thing you want to look at is, are they still producing? Because these are not. I mean, yeah, there's one tomato here, there's a flower here, but there's no vigor. There's nothing really happening up here. So this is kind of dead weight, and I just want to take these off. So I'm going to actually take them as far down as I can. So if I follow these two branches all the way down, these two vines, I can see there is actually some new productive growth right here. So I'm going to cut this off above that so that all of this is coming off my one tomato, which I'll just wrap in newspaper and put it on the counter until it turns the color it's supposed to. And then this guy is going to take its place right there. Now this long one, there's one little bit of growth here, and I could take that back to here, so I'll do that. And then that is better. Now, at this point, everything that's left is looking pretty good. There may be a few other guys to cut back here, like this is not useful, but I see some buds starting to sprout along some new leaf nodes sprouting, and I actually see a blackberry cane coming up in here. I will pull that out later. So now it's just time to train it into its trellis so that it grows big and strong and keeps producing tomatoes for the next couple of months, because we have 2 more months at least where this is going to keep growing. And I just want this to do as well as it possibly can. See, now this guy is all pruned up and ready for action. All the dead weight's been cut off, and so it has the impetus to produce new foliage and new fruit, hopefully, if you feed it. Before I let you go, let's talk for a minute about pruning suckers. There are really two schools of thought. The main school of thought is if you're going to train them up a small trellis like this, you want to keep it maintained, and so you prune off the suckers. However, if you have more room, and if you live in a place where your plants are susceptible to blight, powdery mildew, septoria leaf spot, any of the fungal infestations, keep the suckers, you're gonna need them. And if you live in a place where you get 100-degree temperatures over summer, you also are going to need that extra foliage to protect and not cause sun scald, to protect the tomatoes from sun scald. So you decide what works best for you, and enjoy your tomatoes for as long as you can. If you like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to find out when our next video comes online. You'll find tons of information about growing tomatoes, pruning tomatoes, and a whole bunch of other stuff at gardenerd.com, and you'll find them in my books, Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden, Gardening for Geeks specifically. And don't forget to check out my new novel, which is a really fun read set in a community garden, Garden Variety. Happy gardening!